So, number one thing I want to talk about is, unfortunately, the untimely passing of Andrew Weatherall, man. Like, legendary DJ from the Love Out of Outer Space fame, somebody who I kind of looked up to a lot coming up in the scene. And again, somebody who I think didn't maybe get the props that he deserves, but I think it was also purposely done. I do remember having a feeling that, especially when I discovered Andrew Weatherall, I think this might have been the time when I was discovering maybe Ricardo Villalobos and Craig Richards and stuff. And I used to always think, this guy's as good as these guys. Why isn't he on the same platform? Then obviously when you start reading interviews and you start following him and stuff, you start to see that, oh, actually it was a conscious effort on his part to not be the superstar DJ, quote unquote selector person. I always said it's a really poor example because I guess Gerd Jansen is probably a lot younger than he is, but I always saw Andrew Weatherall as like the UK version of Gerd Jansen, like a DJ's DJ, somebody that's respected by most DJs in the scene, who people like other DJs respect him a lot when they're playing alongside him, right? They think, okay, this guy's a special one, right? Because he does because I imagine when you're like a top level DJ, there does come a point where you get a bit cynical. You start to just, phone it in. You just start to play for the crowd. You start to play for the Beatport charts. It just becomes a little bit meh, right? So I can imagine if you're playing alongside Andrew Weatherall and he's still rocking the dance floor the same as you are because you're playing all the current pop, the current house, techno, electro, EBM hits, but he's just playing all this off-kilter stuff that he's found in record stores or stuff that he's got sent or stuff that he's made for the last part, which I was really a big fan of. Like he was a big proponent of like playing a lot of his own music. I think he came from that old school kind of mentality where DJs necessarily all play their own music for the most part. I watched too many interviews of this guy. Like he definitely kind of molded the way that I kind of viewed artistry when it comes to DJing. Because I have to admit, when I first got into it, especially because I first got into it for the promoting side, and it was just a necessity, right? Because we were booking big DJs or booking DJs that cost a lot of money, and there wasn't anyone, we didn't have any other budget left to kind of book supporting acts. So I just started DJing, right? And then over time, I gained a real love for it. I gained a real ability to do it. I thought, I still maintain, I think I'm probably up there with some of the best London DJs out there, especially that aren't playing as regular as they should be. But I didn't think there was much artistry to it. I thought there was a lot of skill to it. I thought maybe there was a lot of taste to it, but I didn't think there was a lot of artistry, if you get what I mean, right? But I like the way that Andrew Weatherall approached DJing as an artist. Like maybe because of his history in Primal Scream, but he definitely approached DJing with a sense of, I don't know, care and craft and love and direction and intention. That's the thing here. Everything had an intention behind it. He didn't just do things willy-nilly. It wasn't just for the sake of it, like he was just playing around, right? Everything had an intention behind it. And I guess there's no better way to kind of lay tribute to the man than quickly go over this video that I watched back in the day that I thought was a really good summation of kind of his thoughts and his legacy and what he's kind of about. I'm going to quickly play it here for you guys. And yeah, it's from like 10 minutes 16, I think, on this bit. I'm going to play it for you now. Okay, I'll put it on the screen. Hopefully it starts to play. Let's see. This is a video from Thump. I actually miss Thump, man. It was quite a decent little online magazine, mostly focused on electronic music or dance music culture, and unfortunately, it's gone by the wayside. Quite a lot of them are doing the same thing. I think I was saying the other day, I think I may start my own little Instagram page or web page that is similar to that for dance music clips. Maybe something similar to like the Music Mag from back in the day. Remember music spelled with a Z? That might be a good way to go about things, because I do miss having a place to go to that isn't RA, just to kind of get kind of off-kilter news and stuff. That would be quite entertaining. Or feature some people that are a bit underground, not that well known. I think that'd be quite cool. But anyway, let's quickly just view this, and then now we can just carry on. I think it's a good tribute for Andrew Weatherall and kind of talking about what he does. He's obviously there doing a little bit of is it lino printing with this kind of, when you scrape it on and you kind of cover it with the ink. I think so. Let's go to 1016. This is a bit I want to hear. There we go. Here, who's over here?
Still DJing with vinyl?
I buy vinyl. I kind of am. I buy vinyl and I record onto CD, because then I have the best of both. I love vinyl, but I don't. I didn't like lugging 30 kilos of records around Europe at the best of times, even less so now. So you get to carry a lot of vinyl, even although it's recorded with an analog line onto a CD player. You still get people. They expect me to play on vinyl. You get one punter a gig coming up and having a look and kind of looking at you with a kind of disappointed, slight shrug, and off they walk. But there's no point trying to lean over and shout, and explain that you do actually support vinyl.
That's the one thing I think is unique about London in that respect. As annoying as it may be with some DJs, you can exist. There is a scene, an industry, an appeal for, like, I wouldn't even term it that because I think it's quite disparaging, but for lack of a better term, chin stroker DJs, they like, you can make a career out of it. I guess maybe in some other places I think of it, let's say maybe in Miami, maybe some place like in New York, maybe in some extent in LA, you probably can't be a chin stroker DJ. You have to be like a DJ that could play most things. You couldn't just be your own little niche thing, which is why people probably move to places like Berlin and Georgia and shit, right? Or Tbilisi, sorry, or these kind of off-kilter places, or maybe places like Lisbon and shit. Because you can maybe hone your own little craft. Maybe Israel is a good one, but London's UK is more. Even that Bristol, keep Bristol weird video from Boiler Room really kind of expounds on it. The fact that you can just get away with, building a label, building a production company, building an aesthetic, an artistry, a direction you're a DJ that is very, very specific, and you can find very, very specific or niche fans that are into that stuff too. It doesn't, it's so cool. That's a great thing I think about London. Unique in that way.
How did you make that step from DJ to producer?
Well, again, it was just because I had a good record collection. So I became a DJ because I had a good record collection, and I'd been playing at clubs that people wanted to go to, and those bands were at those clubs. So it's, the ones that I wanted to work with are the ones that went to the club and were genuinely influenced by the music that I was playing, or Paul Oakenfold was playing, or Danny Rampling was playing, so it seemed only natural that they would ask me to make their records sound like the records I was playing or they were dancing to. That's why I was bought. I wasn't bought in as a technical, it was the fact that I knew I was on those dance floors every weekend. That's the knowledge that I was bringing, and the structures and the sounds of those records. I had to work with an engineer to realise them, but I wasn't. That same engineer wasn't in DJing in nightclubs every weekend.
That's the one thing that I've always kind of taken from him as a lesson. And maybe, again, my experience kind of looking at people like Craig Richards, Ricardo Villalobos, obviously Andrew Weatherall, Gerd Jansen, Seth Troxler, a few others, maybe Dixon in the beginning too, when he first kind of got started in Arm and stuff. I always got the understanding, I always got the kind of feeling that to be a really good DJ, and look at all things, I think the mantra that sticks in my head is this idea that, I remember when I was doing this whole like CrossFit endurance thing, and I was, and the CrossFit endurance program is like a running program that basically tells you that you shouldn't, in order to run longer, don't run for long. Like, it's all these little methods where you do like circuit training, you do the kind of drills, everything but running the distance. I remember reading a quote that said something along the lines of like, if you want to get better at running, you got to run more, right? It's just like a really simple line. And I guess I always attribute that to DJing too. Like, in order to be good at DJing, you have to actually go out and party, right? You have to actually know, you have to kind of have an understanding of what makes a good party to understand how to put on a good party yourself, right? But there is this weird thing. I do think maybe in the scene, there is a weird divide between like geeks or people that are just like musically obsessed, right? That can just name you every artist on every track, on every label, every production credit, that know when a drop's about to come, or, they just know everything, every white label they have, but they don't necessarily go out and party. They're not necessarily fans of dance music culture. They just kind of stay in their little cabin, stay in their little man cave, play their tunes at home, make banging mixes, do great productions, get booked everywhere and go and play out. But they don't necessarily, there's no joy behind what they're doing about going out. They just like sharing. Maybe they like, the joy comes from maybe sharing the music. But I do like the idea that maybe this is fact why I like some people like a Roy Perez or Dr. Rubenstein, who I've kind of discovered in the last few years, Helena Hauff. Like, they actually enjoy the fact that they're outside, right? Like that's probably why people really, even though I'm not really a fan of all the hands in the air stuff. Like I follow a girl on Twitter who's the same, Alicia, who's like always kind of waving her hands in the air and shit, doing like it's like a tech house thing, right? Where you always kind of, you know, like it's always about you, like you're kind of like putting it out there that I'm the one that's making this party rock. I do understand the appeal of that tech house kind of 338 scene, because you know the DJs behind the booth are really enjoying the fact that they are playing records for this crowd that are gurning off their heads and all wearing shades and stuff, right? They're loving it. So I can understand why that would appeal to punters, because if you're going to a rave and you're seeing like, I don't know, a Matthias Tamsen behind the decks, or a DJ Hell, or like a Ben UFO, and it's just like standing there, or like a Surgeon, right? Just not moving, not showing any level of emotion. It can maybe bum you out as an audience member. Of course, I don't necessarily go to clubs to go see a DJ himself perform. I might go and glance and see him there. Oh, he's there. I've got my eyes on him. But I'm not necessarily like looking at him the whole time. I'm just dancing. I'm in my own little zone, isn't it? That's the whole beauty of being, of going out and clubbing and stuff. But I do appreciate the fact that there are people like Andrew Weatherall who do exist, right? Who kind of approach it from the idea of like, no, I'm a fan of music first. That's where my love for it comes. This is where my expertise comes from. And this is a lesson that I've kind of carried on with me, to be honest. Obviously, it can get a little bit too crazy. You can maybe go over the top somewhat in terms of the amount of times you do go out and stuff, and you can sometimes get lost in the sauce. But I think overall, I'm a big fan of the idea that, you know, in order to get better, in order to kind of get a better understanding, in order just to kind of, you know, develop your taste, it's good to kind of go out to a lot of stuff. And I go out to a lot of events, especially some of the bigger events, you know, from big promoters, and some of the smaller stuff, because, you know, it's the best way to kind of get involved and be a part of the scene.
I think half of the attraction for art for me was its lack of respectability. You know, especially being brought up in the suburbs, which was, you know, I didn't have a bad upbringing, but it was the suburbs, and it was quite monochromatic, and all the colour seemed to be coming from people that weren't that respectable. David Bowie on Top of the Pops doing Starman, that old suburban cliche. You know, that wasn't deemed particularly respectable just after tea time in 1972. And the same with the Sex Pistols. You know, that to my parents' generation and their parents who fought in the Second World War, that was a giant, you know, literally a gob in the face sometimes.
Imagine, yeah. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, that's very true. But yeah, man.
How long have you been doing this for?
Well, I would say I'm just trying to kind of put myself in the back in the vortex when I was kind of a little bit of a loose cannon, which has been sort of 5-6 years ago. Yeah, sort of 6-7 years ago maybe. This studio was a hub of characters, as you called them earlier on. You know, we were having a good time, but I was living the lifestyle a bit too much. There's many distractions around here. Should you wish to get involved, and I just got involved a little bit too much, and it was detrimental to my health, wealth, and physical well-being, and just decided that kind of going from quite a heavy intake, it was probably quite dangerous. What I did was going from a quite heavy daily intake to literally nothing, you know, and the physical side of it's all right. It takes a couple of weeks and your body gets accustomed. It knows it's not going to get that combination of chemicals that it so enjoys. But you think you're over it, and then the mental, all the stuff, basically, you know, self-medication a lot of the time, drug taking or drinking is about suppressing your feelings and your subconscious. So obviously when you stop it, all the doors become unlocked to your subconscious. All sorts of stuff comes pouring out. It's a very, very strange time, and it had been quite easy to kind of alleviate that by going back to where I'd started. So I thought, I've got too much to lose, and also I need something to focus my mind, and it was, I started sort of drawing for a bit, and then my mind would wander, but then I just I don't know. I just thought of you know, something reasonably easily accessible that needs concentration. Just I think I was in an art shop and just saw the lino and thought.
Yeah, I love that approach from him. Again, RIP to Andrew Weatherall, man. Just sad of even watching all this stuff. But yeah, I think the idea that, you know, he saw himself going off the rails. He saw that his career was getting impeded. He had a family. He had too much to lose, that he said. Obviously, the idea that you've got all this talent and you're going to waste it just so you can get high with your friends isn't really the most worthwhile thing. And overall, I just think it's a commendable thing. He was able to kind of, before it got too heavy, his health really suffered, he decided to kind of pull the brakes on the whole debauchery lifestyle and navigate his kind of, his creative energies into lino, right? Lino printing, which, you know, isn't the easiest thing to do, even to pick up as an art form, right? You could probably sketch and maybe do oil paintings or watercolor or anything else, but lino is probably the easiest thing to get into. And he decided to do it because, again, it probably just switches off the brain, so he's not thinking about other things. And again, as an addict, I would definitely ascribe to that sort of thing as well. That's probably why I run so much, right? Because it just turns off a part of your brain. Because all you're thinking about is just surviving. You're thinking about just not tripping over. You're thinking about maintaining a pace. You're thinking about getting to a destination. It just kind of cuts off a certain part of your brain, so that, you know, once you do have the wherewithal to start thinking about your life, you can do it with a clear head. And yeah, man. RIP Andrew Weatherall. Thoughts and fears go out to his family and friends, and hope the dance music community comes around and just gathers around them and supports them in this tough, difficult time, man.